Hello, and welcome to Role Playing GamesCast. We're your host, Tony.
I'm Joe.
And we are here to share our video game love with you. So we've got, this is our first full episode, and we've got a couple of different segments for you. So Joe's going to go ahead and lead us off on this first segment that we're calling
Side Quests. In this segment, we're just going to talk about what else we've been playing, specifically video games. And I'll just jump right in. I've been trying very hard to get mediocre at fighting games, Tony.
So you have told me.
Yeah.
And how's that going?
It's going okay. I actually bought a fight stick this week. I met some guy in the parking lot of a Whole Foods and gave him a handful of cash and took his old fight stick from him. He said that fighting games made him too angry, and he was willing to sell them to me.
Is that legitimate? They said
no, that's legitimately what he said. Yeah, he said he bought a stick to get good at Street Fighter, and it made him too mad. And so now I have his. It's not like a Hori. I had like a Hori Mini. If people out there know what Hori sticks are, they're really good, but I had the mini version, and the platform was so small that it didn't feel stable in my lap, and it just wasn't going to work for me. I picked up a Kanaba drone, which is a nice size. It plays really well. I'm happy with it so far. I feel like I didn't immediately get worse when I started using it, and some things I feel like I've done a little better, and I'm happy about that. So I will continue my desperate quest for mediocrity.
So one man's pain was another man's discounted pleasure.
Yes.
That's awesome. So me, I'm currently, for those of you that don't know, I am really obsessive about Japanese RPGs. And so I'm always playing them. And I feel like the current market of JRPGs is pretty mediocre. And we've talked about this, Joe, and in terms of companies kind of refusing to get with it in terms of the times, and the games look like they were made in 2018, but in terms of the way the game is built, it feels like it was built in 1990. And so with just kind of the market of really high quality games, they just feel too dated to be enjoyable. And I think a game that's done a really good job of escaping this trap is Persona 5. And I think I've been playing Persona 5. I'm about 40 hours in right now, and I believe that I am not even halfway through, according to my research.
Okay.
So I think that the average play time on Persona 5 is 100 hours to finish the game.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the full doing everything you can version of the playthrough.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a ton of stuff, but I can tell you all of the anything you're hearing about the game is true. It is so fun to play. The music is amazing. It's so highly stylized. The combat, while being turn-based, feels very quick and very intuitive, while also having kind of a layer of depth in terms of the different systems you can master. It's a little bit like Pokemon, where you can catch these different personas and you can fuse them, and you combine their abilities, and only the main character can switch the abilities. So you have kind of this kind of gamut of abilities to make up for what your party mates don't have. Which is really, really cool. So it's just really, really well done. And I've really enjoyed playing Persona 5. And hopefully, being a teacher, I have the summer off. So my goal is to beat Persona 5 before the school year starts. So with 100-hour playtime, who knows if that's actually going to happen or not.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In the long list of RPGs that I've started and not finished, Shin Megami Tensei 4 is included in there. And I'm wondering how different that is from the Persona games. Do you talk to the demons and have a chance to convince them to join your party or ask them for things? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Is that all on Shin Megami?
Yeah. You go into a negotiation phase if you try and talk with them, and you try and convince them to join your team. They'll ask you questions and you have to answer them.
Okay, so it looks like on my research here that Shin Megami Tensei Persona is the long version. Persona is it's the same game. It's just you're not saying Shin Megami Tensei up front.
Okay. You should say that every time.
100% of the time. In fact, if you're not saying it, then you're not really a fan, probably.
No, I guess not. Yeah, that's on my list of games to play. I listen to the music a lot when I'm studying. I listen to a lot of video game music when I'm either working on some software stuff or studying up on something. And Persona 5 music comes up a lot. It's real good.
Yeah, I like to listen to Animal Crossing music. I don't know what it is about the Animal Crossing music.
That's great too.
It's so relaxing. And then the other thing I'm playing is Final Fantasy 14. Like you saw, I'm just trying to, it's really fun. I'm trying to get between, I've got the pre-quest before the next expansion. So I'm trying to get through those, which are they're getting a little tedious, if you will.
So they're still making new stuff for Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, they just came out with a month ago, a new expansion called Stormblood. So I need to do there's Heavensward is the one that I'm trying to play right now. I'm trying to get into that, which is the first expansion, and then Stormblood is the second major expansion, I believe. So it's really fun, really well done. A lot of really great fan service, man. A lot of really great fan service. For example, I just got to a part in the game where these refugees come from a kingdom called Doma, like from Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Is it meant to be the same place, or is it just a kind of name? Okay.
No. It's just like the name fan service business. You know,
and I don't know. I don't know how connected these games are supposed to be, or if they're supposed to be connected at all.
I don't think they're supposed to be connected. There's a couple of connections, you have like Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 13-2, Final Fantasy 10, Final Fantasy 10-2. Now you have, in this trilogy of games, you have the Final Fantasy 13 storyline, the Final Fantasy Type 0 storyline, and then Final Fantasy 15. Those are all supposed to be connected.
13 and 15 are connected?
Yes, 13, 15, and Final Fantasy Type 0, which was a game that they released in Japan on PS Vita, and then they released a remastered version of it on the PlayStation 4, which I've started playing and have not played a lot of it. It's kind of hard to get into for me. It's just not exactly my cup of tea, but I want to play it just so I can say I beat it.
This Week in Games, video game news, Tony, is our next segment.
All right, video game news.
We are right in the middle of E3. We're recording this before Microsoft, or I think Ubisoft might be the other company who has a press conference today. There was the EA press conference last night, and there wasn't a ton of stuff that I'm interested in, other than the announcement that Respawn is working on some kind of a Jedi game set in between episodes 3 and 4, which I think is pretty freaking cool. I played a whole lot of the Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight game on PC back in the day, and the ones that came after that, like Jedi Academy, and what was the other one? I can't remember. But
for me, the big one was KOTOR. Man, I played a ton of KOTOR.
Oh, I didn't play I didn't play those.
Oh, KOTOR was amazing. That was the BioWare kind of turn-based version thing.
I played it in my as is my tradition. I played like a dozen hours of the first one, I think, and then put it down and didn't go back to it. But that was back in college.
Of the first KOTOR?
Yeah.
It has one of the best plot twists in a video game I've ever played in my life. It is a must. It's mobile. You can get it mobile.
Wait, on cell phones?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it decent?
Oh, it's very good.
Okay. Like the port to the cell phone, it's actually good.
Yeah, it's very solid. Yeah. I definitely a thing you want to play. It's so good. It's so good. So what is your video game news? What's your thing? Just E3, just in general?
Yeah, I guess so. The fact that game was coming out and is made by Respawn, who recently did Titanfall 2, which I thought was very good, is a thing that I find myself excited about. They talked about Anthem.
I'm really excited about that.
Did you see the gameplay for it?
Yes, I did see a little bit of it. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like Destiny, but it's third person and you can fly.
Yeah.
Which seems really derivative, but also seems like it might be awesome. I don't know.
It's like Destiny had a baby with Mass Effect, and this is the game that's being made.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to really know where I'm going to fall there, and I didn't.
It's the same studio as Mass Effect as well.
Yeah, that's true. I played a little bit of Destiny, but I didn't have friends that were playing consistently enough.
I played the stuff out of Destiny. I played a lot of Destiny.
Were you playing by yourself, or did you have like a crew that you were?
No, I had a crew of people. But I did not like Destiny 2 as much as Destiny 1. I was really into Destiny 1. And Destiny 2, I felt like, in the end game, the end game wasn't as good. The grind wasn't as enjoyable. I enjoy grinding. Obviously, I know you don't. We've had that discussion. And the end game grind for Destiny 1 was really good and really rewarding. But the end game grind for Destiny 2 was just not as rewarding. I don't think.
What makes an end game grind rewarding?
Just being able to up your gear and the kind of gear that you can get and those kinds of things. And,
so it's just kind of the dopamine loop, like finding new gear and having it improve on what you have, but
right, and then being able to do higher level things. So you can do these things called Nightfall strikes, which were really difficult versions of strikes that were in the game, but you had to be really good and had a high level of equipment to be able to do them. And so those rewards were even better. So it was really, really good. It was the loop was very, very good. The gameplay loop was very good and very rewarding. Whereas Destiny 2, it lost a little bit of that reward.
You were rewarded with like new gameplay challenges once you leveled your gear up. Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then you had the quests or the raids, right, which were really intuitive and really cool, man. The best part of the game is the raids and doing raids with people. And so like once you did the raid, then you had harder versions of that raid when you got, I bet, good enough equipment, which was, again, so they just kept upping the difficulty of the game, which was just really, really cool and really rewarding, I thought.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so I guess my video game news is I am really, really, really excited about Kingdom Hearts 3 having a release date.
That's right. And I was telling you earlier, I had never played any of those games. So when we're looking for next ones, we might consider those.
For sure. It's just so magnificent. And I remember just as a kid, when those games came out, I love Disney and I was obsessed with Final Fantasy VII at the time. And so and Final Fantasy, all the Final Fantasy things. And so when that game came out, it took two things that I really, really enjoyed as like a young person and like put them together in a video game. And that was like mind melting to me.
Nice.
I mean, only Square Enix could like combine Disney and Final Fantasy and just create this cult following of a game, Really, really amazing. Phenomenal music, really good music, really cool story. The story, like any Square Enix JRPG, got a little convoluted,
Yeah.
You'd have to do some research so that you could be able to understand the daggum story,
Right.
But again, just really, really, really high quality game. I really enjoyed it. And I'm really excited.
Are these like the Final Fantasy games in that these stories are, for the most part, meant to be completely self-contained, or
in terms of game to game?
Yeah.
Oh no! Every game in the story is related.
Okay, and there have been a lot. And if I understand correctly, there have been quite a few of those games.
Yeah, there have been two main console numbered games. So Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and then you have several that came out on PSP and I think one came out on Game Boy Advance, one came out on DS. And then, like I was talking to you earlier, they have like the 1.5, 2.5 remix that they released on PS4, which has all of that stuff. And then they released also a 2.8, which is supposed to be the in-between connecting Kingdom Hearts 2 and then Kingdom Hearts 3.
Right.
Which is very cool. So they've been preparing for this kind of release for a while, and they've done a good job, I think, of giving us just enough Kingdom Hearts every so often to get us mega pumped about Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out in January.
So if 3 comes out and it reviews really well, and I'm very excited about it, should I go back and play the originals before I jump into it?
Oh, man, I would try and play those originals as much as possible before that even comes out, because I think it's going to be really, really good. I think, If the previous stuff is any indicator, it's going to be very, very good. Now, if we can just get Final Fantasy VII Remake to have a release date, I would be the happiest man on earth.
Well, I think Sony's press conference is tomorrow, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath because they've gone through. Apparently, they were going out of house developing the game, and then all of a sudden they changed their mind and didn't like the direction it was going, and now everything is in house. So it sounds like they're probably starting from scratch.
Oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, which is no good. But I mean, Final Fantasy VII was the game for me that got me into everything. And so when they announced that remake and showed that remake footage, I think it was E3 is where they showed the first teaser. And then the following, that same year at PSX in December, they showed like a fuller version with gameplay. And that's the last thing we've seen. And I believe that was 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's been quite a number of years since we've gotten anything about that. So basically, I spend most of my life trying to find out what's going on there to no avail.
Okay, good stuff. Our next segment is called The Grind, and that's meant for us to talk about just what's generally going on with our lives.
Kind of how we're grinding in life and the things that we're doing and how we're maybe becoming better people, possibly worse people. Who knows?
Ideally one direct. Yeah, ideally the former, but we'll find out.
Shall I go first or shall you go first?
Sure, yeah, because I have no idea what I'm going to say, so please go first. I'll
talk about something funny that happened to me this week. Probably the funniest thing that happened to me this week atop some revelations. So at this point in my life, I'm not old, but I'm getting older. I'm getting close to entering my Clooney years, if you will. I'm getting more attractive by the day, is what I'm trying to tell you. Currently on the dating scene, trying to find a suitable human for dating long term. That is what I'm doing in my life. So I went on a date the other day with a nice lady, and I told Joe that I was going on this date. I sent him a message because I felt like he needed to know that I was going on this date. This is what Joe said back to me, guys. So I said I was on a date with an amazing human, to which Joe responds, "That's great. Take them somewhere nice like an Arby's." Of course, I did not respond to Joe. And Joe sends me a message 2 hours later to the minute. "Tony, don't let the night end without a trip to Arby's." And I about lost my mind. Unfortunately, I did not take her to Arby's. We went and got some nice beer and whiskey instead.
You convinced me that you did, though, and I thought for a minute that you had like actually taken my advice and gone there, and I felt kind of bad. Not that I have anything against Arby's. I don't know that I've ever been there. I've just...
here's what I found out is Arby's, like it's spelled Arbys. Yeah. But it turns out you're saying Arby's is like short or it's like long for RB as in roast beef.
Right.
Arby's.
I never knew that.
Me either, but I also like their advertising campaign.
I'm also pretty convinced that I'll forget it as soon as this episode is over.
Yeah, you probably will. But if anything, you should look up some of their advertisements because they're really funny. And they like promote video games like drum corps and like weird like marching band and stuff. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah, the advertisements are very, very cool.
Wow.
But that's something funny. Related to that, I kind of had a revelation about dating in terms of this is the grind. This is how I've leveled up this week. This is how I'm a better person, I think. And that was like, for me, like in dating, I've always had like, I felt like I've had this laundry list of like qualifications or not qualifications. That sounds terrible. Qualities is a better word.
Qualifications.
Right.
What are your recent certifications?
I'm a teacher, so like this is the language that rolls around in my head.
Okay.
Anyway, this list of like characteristics, qualities, whatever that they have to meet in order for me to think that they're dateable in the long term. And that has been wildly unsuccessful. In terms of like, if they don't like meet my crazy list of like things I think they should be able to do, it's like, I'm not going to date you, which is like so selfish and ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah. So like I'm driving over to this date and I have this like revelation and it's like, what if instead of like in my mind, imagining what this human could do for me or what they bring to the table, instead, how about I bring absolute selflessness to the table and I show up and all I care about is being interested completely and what they are and who they are and what they've done, and who they are as a person. And if they reciprocate that like kind of selfless, complete interest, then that's a person worth dating.
So your list with things like not a murderer at the top is thrown right out the window.
100%.
Okay.
So they can be a murderer, but if they're interested and show interest in me, then I'm willing to risk death, is what I'm telling you.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Is that acceptable? That's acceptable. So those people out there, all the people listening to this, hopefully you too can share in my revelation. Joe, how did you grind this week?
How did I? Jeez. I am trying to take care of things around the house. I just put up some shutters this afternoon.
Like hurricane shutters?
No. These are what are they made out of? Like vinyl shutters? They're completely functionless. They're useless. They're meant to look good with your house somehow, and I think they match our roof better than the ones that were there before did. So yeah, that's my inspiring story, and I hope that it encourages all of you to live better lives.
So you put makeup on your house is what you're telling us?
Yeah, hell yeah, I did.
You were not pleased with the eyelashes, so you put new fake ones in?
The contour on my house was garbage, and I went and I cleaned that stuff up real good. Okay, so we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VI, the game that we are playing. This episode is going to cover, and we'll try to cover this in the show notes as well, the beginning of the game until the end of the 3 parts. And I don't know what to call this exactly, but there's a section of the game where you get where your party breaks into 3 pieces, and you get to choose which one of those pieces you play. And when you finish one, you come back and choose one of the remaining 3, and then you come back again and choose the last one. And then you're at the end of that section. And we're going to cover from the beginning of the game up until the end of that.
Initial reactions to this part of the game.
Yeah.
And I think we both agree.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm very happy. It's a lot happens in these first. I think it took me like 7 hours to get where I'm at now.
I think I clocked 5:30 or 6.
Okay, yeah, I'm moving a little slower then, but it's really dense. A lot of things are happening. You're introduced to a lot of characters. A lot of major plot beats are moving through. It's really good.
I agree. It's so well done. So well done.
It's not too difficult. Yeah. It's fun to play. As far as like turn-based RPGs go, All the characters have like little neat skill mechanics that I found fun to play around with.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite parts is the little skills and how everybody has this like unique skill in terms of the battle system. So I thought the intro was very cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, even before the intro, I guess this is the version that we chose, or the version that are you still in the Vita or are you in the SNES?
No, I am actually doing the original SNES Final Fantasy 3 version.
Okay. Well, as soon as I boot up the game, I get like an intro FMV, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I obviously don't have that.
No, you get like it before you start the game. None of it makes sense. You see like a ninja and a guy playing with a card and a guy flipping coins, and you have no idea what's going on, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the actual, the original intro, like the 16-bit intro, is really cool. Like when you actually start up the game and you have the three people in the mechs like walking down the snowfield towards the town, and the main theme is playing. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, and it's incredible like how they've been able to set up this vibe of like cold, like the town is very cold and dark and everything is very barren. And they've done that with very little like technological ability, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's incredible because there's games now that have so much ability to create these environments and they flop. And this game, you know, using 16-bit sprites creates this unbelievable like aura and energy. And I felt like, man, like it feels so just barren. Everything feels barren. The people, like I totally was sucked into the world, you know?
Yeah, there's no accounting for like good art direction.
Yeah, and the music helps like all of that. You know, the sound effects, just absolutely really, really cool. And I felt like it was very good that, you know, they're throwing you into this combat system, but they're really doing it really easily because you have these Magitech armors that they're just destroying enemies. But you're able to, you know, so you're able to get a feel for it without having the difficulty right up front. They save the difficulty a little bit for later, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it gives you a sense that it kind of gives you the impression that the Empire is very strong, and what they've managed to do with this Magitech technology puts them in a position where they're able to just roll over anyone who opposes them, which is what you do at the beginning. They also let on to the fact that the character you start as, Terra, is under the control of the Empire somehow, even though you're controlling her and fighting these battles. It's implied that she's doing it against her will, which I
because she's wearing that slave crown.
Right. Which you don't even find out about until actually they do mention the slave crown when you start off, but you get it removed later. Yeah,
Biggs and Wedge mention about how they'll do anything. She'll do anything they command because of whatever, which is also funny. So in the translation, in my translation, it's not Biggs and Wedge. It's Vicus and Wedge.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. It's Vic. Like, that's one of the things I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And then...
They're totally Biggs and Wedge on mine.
Yeah. Because you have, I guess, because when they did the port for the PlayStation, it was almost unedited, I think, from the SNES version. When they released the SNES version in America, there was some censorship involved in terms of some of the conversation, in terms of the sprites were a little bit more risque in the Japanese version, but because it was coming in for American audiences, they censored some of that stuff. So the version you have actually is going to be less censored than the version that I'm playing.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to have to ask about something specifically later.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll cover it when we get to it, but I'm interested to see what other differences there are.
Yeah, man.
So you're introduced to Terra. She's rolling through this town. Like you said, there's like a really cool, like, it's wintertime in this industrial town and you're trying to make your way through to the mines. And they have a militia that's opposing you, but you're just blowing right past them. And you find out you're looking for something called an Esper, which really, even at the end of the place we are now, we don't really know what Espers are, other than that they are powerful magical beings of some kind. And you fight your way to the end. You get to the Esper, and the Esper just immediately just murks Biggs and Wedge.
Yes,
and
destroys.
Yeah, and Terra passes out, and you wake up.
And that's when you're kind of revealed. You know, he's removed that guy has removed the slave crown from you. But yeah, so and then that's at that point you're introduced to Locke, which is very cool. Not the thief, but the treasure hunter. He prefers to be called.
Yes, he's very particular about that.
Yeah, he is not down with being called a thief. I thought one of the cool things about that whole thing is
he's not down. My favorite part is that he's not down with being called a thief, but his primary skill is stealing.
Yeah. He's not stealing. He's treasure hunting from people.
Yeah, but they didn't call it Treasure Hunt.
No. That's because Treasure Hunt wouldn't fit in the command box, I don't think.
No, and yeah, you do see a lot of things abbreviated because the size of the font they're using is fixed, and they don't have a lot of room to put things in the menus, especially in the battle menu.
Right, and I think one of the coolest parts about the whole sequence is like the whole fight, like the 3-person fight with the Moogles. Oh
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I thought it was very cool though.
I should go back. You don't wake up in the mines. You wake up in Arvis's. It's Arvis, by the way. I just looked that up.
Okay.
You wake up in his house, and that's where you meet Locke. And Locke tries to help you escape when more guards are coming to try and find Terra because they know that they saw her with the Empire, so they want to shut her down.
Right, because they come to knock on the door, and Arvis is there with Terra, and then she runs away, chasing the cave, and then she falls through the cave. And then Locke, later, Arvis sends Locke into the cave to find Terra.
That's right, yeah. And we should also mention that the Biggs and Wedge, while they have Terra, mentioned that she's a really powerful magical user, and that's why she got the slave crown put on her in the first place. Right,
and you can see that again, I think they did a good job of. You can see that the Magitech, which is the armor, right? The armor they're writing, the abilities of that Magitech is enhanced by her natural magical ability. So she has more attacks than Biggs and Wedge because of that added magical ability.
Right. And I never actually used that. I just used the Magitech.
Oh,
so I don't know what the difference would be.
Oh well, the Biggs and Wedge have the firebolt, the lightning bolt, the ice bolt, and then the heal. And then in addition to those, Terra also has the Exfer missile.
That's right.
Or the tech missile, the Exfer thing, which I think just sends you into nothing. She has like a poison thing. She's like a couple of extra Magitech attacks that Biggs and Wedge don't have. And I think that's indicative, again, of her natural ability and how her ability fuses with that machine, which, again, is so thought out. Once Locke finds you.
Yeah, and he finds you. You get found by not by the Empire, but by the Narshe militia.
Right.
And then you get rescued by the Moogles, which I guess you're supposed to be familiar with in Final Fantasy, but to me it was like a little unnerving because I was not familiar with the Moogles, and it seemed like these pale, ghostly demons were just surrounding you. But Locke reacts with like, "Hooray! It's the Moogles." Clearly, you're familiar with your old friends, the Moogles, and I was not.
Well, that's a character in the game that's like in all of the games.
Really?
Yeah,
I played Final Fantasy 15, and I don't feel like I saw any.
There are Moogles in Final Fantasy 15, I believe, but I think they're subtle.
Altissia?
Where Leviathan attacks.
Altissia? Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a little party or celebration that goes on there, and they're Moogles in that thing.
It was horrifying initially, but I'm glad that they rescued us.
I remember you asked me about that.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool because you're already introducing it's like we're not just going to roll through and fight. We're going to have this fight done this way. We have to fight with 3 different Moogle parties so that you can actually survive the thing. Because if you try and fight everybody with one party, you're going to get wiped out.
Right. Yeah, and it was fun.
So that was cool. He gets rescued, and then they travel, or Locke rescues Terra, and then they escape Narshe, and they go to Figaro.
That's right. Yeah, and Figaro, the main castle.
And I love Figaro. Figaro is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. He's funny in that he seems like he's willing to hit on everybody he meets, but all of his subjects are also willing to just talk shit about him. either behind his back or directly to his face, which was pretty funny. You do either here or a little bit before they introduce you to the idea that you're not going to be playing just as Terra in this game. You'll at different times be playing either as another single character or separate parties. I don't know if this settles into like a system where you can just create your party and play as whoever later, but for this first part of the game, they're usually dictating which subset of characters you're playing as at any given point in time. And when you get to Figaro for a little bit, you get to play as Edgar, the king.
And it's cool because the best part with Figaro and this whole thing here, this is when we're really introduced to Kefka.
Right. That's right. Yeah, he shows up. The Kingdom of Figaro and Edgar are pretending, you find out, to be allied with the Empire.
Yes.
Even though they are really giving support to the, what are they called?
The Returners.
The Returners, that's right. This rebel group that you find out Locke and Arvis are a part of. Edgar is also secretly a part of, but he pretends to be allied with the Empire. Yeah. Kefka shows up. Kefka is the king's, what is he? Chancellor, maybe?
Advisor or something
Advisor,
like that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's like a general.
But you meet Kefka. He shows up and is looking for Terra.
Right.
And you see in a flashback that Kefka is the one who put that slave crown on Terra originally. He shows up looking for her, and Edgar deflects, and Kefka leaves and says something ominous that indicates he'd be back, and he is.
He is indeed back. He comes back full force and is trying to burn Figaro to the ground, which again I think speaks immediately to how crazy of a person he is. But it's like counterbalanced by this like ridiculous like character. Like this, like it's like a ridiculous caricature. Because remember, they're like walking in the desert to the castle, and he says something about having sand in his shoes, and he hates sand.
Oh, yeah.
And so his little attendants have to like clean the sand.
Yeah. They definitely play him like alternatingly really silly and ridiculous, like a cartoon villain,
right?
And then like really dark and genuinely evil, which you'll see later on. But it's an interesting play on a villain.
But even like when he like does, like, I'm just laughing thinking about some of the things that he says when he does, like when he's burning down Figaro Castle, and Edgar approaches him and he's like, "Welcome to my barbecue," like.
To jump ahead, Kefka does come back. He sets the castle on fire. Edgar runs out, and all your little guard NPCs are just running back and forth, screaming fire, which I thought was pretty funny.
Right.
And he makes some snarky comments about a barbecue, and then you find out that, and I'll admit, I thought the opposite. I didn't think that the castle was a submarine, because you do have these people who indicate that the castle is capable of transforming somehow, but
Correct.
they won't tell you how. I assumed when I saw the propellers that it was going to take off and fly away, but it does the opposite and dives into the ground,
which is better because then the sand puts out the fire.
Right? Yeah. Actually, it is better.
But something I did notice is like if you did you go to like the top of the castle, or like how like to get to the top of the castles, like there's like little stairwells,
right?
But like there's no like cover on those stairwells. Do you think the sand just like goes right in, or?
Yeah. Also, how do they get oxygen?
All things that hopefully will be answered later.
Wait, really?
No, I don't think so.
Usually they just kind of hand wave that stuff. I'd be surprised if they were actually going to spend time giving you a detailed answer on how they get oxygen inside of their submarine castle, their sand submarine castle. Okay,
maybe we'll come up with we'll make how do they even move? Like how do you move through sand? Like I don't know. But still, it's actually a pretty cool idea because we don't, obviously not everything needs to be explained. That's why this is a game set in a fantasy world,
Right. But you guys out there, please tweet at us and tell us how you think that they breathe in the Figaro sand submarine castle.
All theories welcome.
Yes, that's at cast_roll. And we're like halfway through the beginning of this game, and we've already talked about a lot. The story's really dense. I like that a whole bunch.
Yeah. Then you head to South Figaro, which is like, I guess, a part of the Kingdom of Figaro, but it's like a town.
Right. Yeah, this is
you learn about. What do you learn
not
about?
In the middle of the desert.
No, this is not. Who's the Vargas is the student. Who's the teacher?
Oh shoot!
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Hold on, I'll find out.
I want to call him Dariel, but I know it's not Dariel.
Vargas
is the student.
Duncan,
who is Vargas's father,
who is a member of the Returners, I believe.
I don't know if Duncan. I can't remember that part. That's definitely a possibility. But Duncan is like a military, does martial arts and trains martial artists, and so you find out that Duncan has gone into the mountains and died. He was murdered, by his son Vargas.
Right.
And so you go for whatever reason to go follow them there.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think you're trying to find Duncan because I think he was a member of the Returners. But when you do find him,
and you're also looking for Sabin too,
right? Who is Edgar's brother? We should mention. You find out when you're at the castle that Edgar's brother Sabin ran off. Something over like, why did he run off? He didn't want the responsibility of being king. Was that it?
That and couldn't handle his father's death. wanted to kind of sow his royal oats, I guess. Something that I wanted to talk about too that I wanted to mention
getting really good at karate. That's usually what people mean when they say sow your royal oats. They mean you're just getting wicked good at karate.
He is wicked good at karate.
And he is, yeah. And by karate, I mean like professional wrestling. But yeah, you go and you meet Vargas, who has murdered his father, and Edgar shows up. And you get a little tutorial fight, which I completely lost. Where
because you did not know how to use the blitz system, which they never explain.
Right.
Like, how would you even know? Like after playing it again, I'm like, how would you even know how to do this?
Right? Yeah, I hit X one too many times and then tried to do my inputs, but after I figured out, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's easy. And something really quick I wanted to mention is in that scene in Figaro Castle when you had the flashback of Sabin interacting with Edgar. I don't know if you noticed. But the music in that scene was just like a melancholic version of the actual castle theme.
Oh, nice.
It was very, very cool how they took that musical material and changed the vibe of the material for that scene. It was so effective, I just thought that was very, very cool.
That's great. Yeah, the music is great everywhere.
Oh, it's outstanding. It's outstanding. It's incredible. So we go to Mount Colts to find Duncan, Vargas, and Sabin.
Right. And Duncan is dead or defeated or however you want to think of that.
He was murdered.
Yes, you brutally murder him, and then Sabin reunites with his brother and joins your group, and you head to the Returners' hideout. Which
is very cool. And I think one of the things I liked about this scenario is like they recognize, like Edgar and Locke, these guys recognize that if they try to force Tara into their group, that they'd be no better than the Empire, and they try to allow her the freedom of making that decision for herself.
Right. Yeah, which is good because Tara had it rough at the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know how she wound up in the place where that slave crown was put on her, but yeah, she was somehow forced to do the Empire's bidding for a certain amount of time. And I don't know if we mentioned this at the beginning, but she has some kind of amnesia. So she doesn't remember a lot about why she was in the position that she was. But she's been running around with these people who are members of the Returners, and they want her to join them. And I selected yes when they asked. I actually don't know what happens if you try to select no.
I don't know either because I didn't.
Oh, man.
I selected yes.
I hope you just get the credits. That would be great.
Game over.
Yeah.
Well, that was quick.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so then you just, you end up after the Mount Colts thing, and you find Sabin. You do the Returners, and then of course the Empire attacks you after you agree to be a part of the Returners, and basically what the Returners are trying to do is they're trying to prevent the War of the Magi.
Yeah, and that's a whole chunk of pre-game exposition that we left out because they do tell you about the War of the Magi at the beginning, which was from a long time ago. I guess magic was used by this much more advanced civilization that preceded the one that's there now.
Yes.
And there was a war where people were using magic as like a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes.
And it destroyed civilization, and then people stopped using magic. I can't remember.
It not necessarily stopped, but it seemed like it went away. Like
okay, yeah.
I guess maybe all that they died, or evolution happening very quickly because 1,000 years is not a long time, but kind of wiped magic out from the planet. And that's part of the thing that's so unique about Tara is that she's a magic user. She has an innate ability to use magic.
Right, yeah.
Which is unseen and unheard of in humans in this game.
There's even a nice scene when you fight one of the bosses where you'll have Tara use fire or something, and Edgar and Locke will freak out when they see it.
Yeah, that's in the desert when Kefka sends the Magitech armor knights after you.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, so much depth, and even Tara is like questioning, like, who am I? What do I believe? And you have all these people that are kind of questioning things, and you have these side of people that really believe in the cause, and you have this crazy Empire people who are just like, seem to be really bad, but Kefka seems to be more evil than the Empire is evil.
Yeah. Immediately they set that off because he's obviously willing to burn down that castle with all the people inside, and then later on,
and did not have permission to do that.
Right. Yeah. You get the impression that he's willing to go rogue.
Yeah. He's acting of his own accord.
You do have a scene, like a cutscene at the beginning. I forgot about this, with the king of the Empire
with
in
Gestal,
Kefka.
Emperor.
That's Gestal. That's right. Is he a dog? His sprite looks like a freaking dog.
Oh, with that beard? No, he's not a dog. But
Okay.
yeah, and in that scene, you have Gestal kind of talking about, his Emperor stuff, which is obviously evil, but doesn't seem to carry the same level of evil as Kefka, who,
he's really willing to kill the innocent.
Yeah,
and they lean hard on that at the beginning to make sure you hate this guy appropriately. But,
which is good, and they do such a good job, because usually characters that are like pure evil, they don't have a lot of depth, and we haven't really encountered a lot of his like motivation yet. But still,
I don't know anything about him yet. He just seems kind of like an evil cartoon character to me at this point. But
that wants to bring about the War of the Magi again.
Right.
But yeah, so Empire attacks the Returners' hideout, of course, because the plot has to thicken. And then you have this whole sequence where you're on a raft and you're floating around the Leyte River.
And that culminates with a fight with Ultros, which is an octopus who has a lot of weird things to say. You fight what I guess is your first encounter with Ultros. He's really chatty and a really weird but kind of funny character. And I feel like in this fight, they mentioned when you set out on the raft that you have to keep what's his name, the leader of the Returners, Bannon alive. And this is to win this fight. I had to make sure I put him in the back row, which was a mechanic I hadn't been thinking about until that point. So I'm assuming that fight is there to make sure that to keep Bannon in the back row, and you're kind of aware that you have these positional things that you can change when you're in battle.
Right. What's really funny is that I remember you saying that last time, and the first time I had played the game, I had already gotten to that part, and I did not do that. I was just like manpower trying to beat this boss, and it was awful. And as soon as I put him in the back, the next playthrough, because I started the playthrough over to play through the SNES Classic version, as soon as I put him in the back, the fight was a million times easier.
Yeah, because I think if you're in the back row, damage is halved, but your attack is also halved. But I don't know.
Which is why you put long range people back there who use magic and stuff.
Right. I was going to say, is it only physical attack that's halved? Because it seems like
your magic is not.
Okay, cool. Oh, then I should have had Tara back there too.
And I put Tara and Edgar back there because Edgar. Here's the thing. Here's the battle system for the first 4 hours of game. Auto crossbow. That's it. That's all I do is spam the auto crossbow.
Oh yeah, he's way overpowered at the beginning. With
overpowered, and it hits everybody.
And I almost didn't buy that stuff because, first of all, the auto crossbow
you get automatically.
Okay.
It's the noise blaster and the bio blaster that you have to buy.
I picked up those two, although I haven't used them much. But when I was really, because I bought an auto crossbow when I was at Figaro Castle. Okay. I didn't know you had to. I just did.
I would see if you can get your money back on that one. I don't know if you can return that.
If I can get my money back?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there customer support I'm talking to for the Figaro Castle item shop? Oh my God.
I hope you save the receipt. Because
I'll tweet at Square Enix and see what they have to say.
Do you think you can recode me 130 GP in the game, please?
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's it's way overpowered. So anything you do with Edgar at the beginning is just you're obliterating
entire parties of enemies. Yeah, it's
as soon as he leaves, the battle becomes incredible, 3 times harder.
Yeah, and I'll talk more about this later. But I've found out during this first part of the game that I really need to make sure I have a lot of curatives with me.
Me too.
Because there were times where I was rolling into a dungeon with 30 tonics, thinking I was over prepared, and I ran through all of them.
Prepared.
Yeah. I was shocked.
You definitely need a lot of curatives, especially because this game, it takes a little bit to get into some of the systems that'll prevent you from needing that. I won't talk about that too much now, but
and obviously in the places where you do have Tara with you, she has curative magic, but
even then, the MP runs out very quickly, and those tinctures, the potion, they're still $1,500.
Yeah. The way the game economy works, it's just not. It doesn't seem like a very good value proposition to spend your MP to cure your health, at least not early in the game.
Right, I agree. Yeah. So let's say River, and then after you defeat Ultros, that's when the game prongs out into this 3 scenario system.
Which is really cool because I thought they were going to make me choose one, and these were just going to be little short sections that I would have to come back and play the game again to see all of them. But no, it's 3 really fleshed out storylines that you can play in any order that you want. And I think I started with Tara and her party. Yeah, and I got them to where they were going.
Yeah, so you're just trying to get them back to Narshe. Right. And it was Tara. Is it Tara and Edgar?
It's Tara, Edgar, and Bannon. Bannon, right. And you get to keep Bannon with you, which is awesome. That was the easiest one, I think, because you have Bannon who can just heal you. He can just heal you constantly for no MP cost. So I wish
never used anything but that heal spell.
I wish he stayed with you forever because that's freaking awesome. But that wasn't too bad. And then you can play Locke's story, which is really, really weird.
But I really liked it.
Locke, it's only Locke that you're playing, and he's going back to South Figaro to, I think, just hold up the Empire is his stated plan.
Well, he's trying to figure out what they're doing there, I think.
Okay.
Like, what is going on? What are they doing in Figaro? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then you have this cool mechanic where you have to steal the clothes from a merchant to be able to get to one thing, and then you have to steal the clothes from a soldier.
Yeah, it's the whole town is this puzzle where you basically have to be pretending to be the right person to get past certain obstacles in your path. I didn't get that you could steal clothes because I picked up on the clue and I tried to steal the merchant's clothes 3 times and I got 3 failures in a row. So I assumed that I was misunderstanding something, but no, it was just the RNG like screwing me over.
Yeah. I feel like the success rate on the steal command is so low.
Yeah.
So low, drives me nuts.
Yeah, you have to repeat it a few times. But once I understood that, it was fine. And you make your way through through South Figaro. And you run into Celis, who is interesting because she's one of, you mentioned there might be 3 generals. I didn't get, are she and Kefka on the same level? Yes,
her, Kefka, and General Leo.
Okay. Who is going to be in the next story that we're going to talk about?
Yes. And Celis is very cool. And you have that whole thing where she's like trapped in there and you have to steal the key. And then one of the options is stealing is bad.
Yeah, I didn't try that one out.
I did. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but literally all that happens is you just back out of the dialogue box. Like, stealing is bad. And then you have to click them again. Yeah, it's kind of, a little bit of a letdown there. But she's got this cool ability and that the game, again, does a good job of teaching you how to use these abilities. That runic ability where she can suck up magic through her sword.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What is it called again? It is runic, right? Yeah. That was really cool. And yeah, you have a battle where you really have to learn to use that to do well.
Yeah, and it's still a tough battle because sometimes that guy will stop using the magic and use regular physical attacks and damage you, and then so you try and counteract that by using heal potions or whatever, and then he uses magic attacks and destroys you some more. And so it was like this weird, almost trying to like rock, paper, scissors and try to guess what he was going to use.
Yeah, I vaguely remember having a tough time with that one too. I will tell you, I was very confused by Celis's ability to use magic.
Yeah.
Because they mentioned at the beginning that Tara is very unusual. Maybe even one of a kind, and that she was born with the ability to use magic.
Yeah.
And then Celis shows up and she has like ice and a few other spells just available to her. I will say they do address this, but they address it after the point that we've agreed to end at today.
Yes, that is addressed for sure. I mean, obviously they weren't going to not address that, but she does have that magic ability. But again, they're creating this thing of like, okay, I know that only Tara can use it. Why can't Celis use it? And now you have this question in your mind that you want answered.
But anyways, Celis has turned her back on the Empire.
Yes.
She mentions that, like in a little bit of foreshadowing, although now that I realize that you don't have to play these stories in the order that we played them in. So for me, it was foreshadowing. For you, it might just have been like a callback. She mentions that she's heard the Empire is planning to poison Dorn.
Doma.
It is Doma. Sorry. What did I say? Jeez, I'm thinking of a completely different fiction. She mentions that she's heard the Empire is planning to poison Doma, and that's why she's become a traitor. And the guards just beat her up, and you rescue her, and then you guys make your way out of town.
Right. And then which obviously you head back to Marsh, and then we encounter Sabin's scenario, which is the longest by far of all the scenarios.
Yeah, it is. It is. A whole lot happens there.
And it's good. And I feel like
Sabin was originally set out with Terra. His story starts when he falls off of the raft. You fight Ultros, and I think you fall off the raft, right?
Yes, and then you end up on the shore of God knows where.
Yeah, what is the name of that town? Hold on.
Doma.
He's in the area of Doma. He's not there at the castle yet.
Right.
But he wakes up on the shore.
And then as you leave that little hut, which is a kind of a foreshadowing to a character you're going to meet later, it's the father of a character that you meet later in Sabin's scenario. Then you meet Shadow, which is my favorite character in the whole game.
Oh, you mean the crazy old guy you meet?
Yeah, that crazy old guy, that's Gao's dad.
Is that Gao's dad?
Yes.
Holy shit. Oh my god. Yeah, he's out of his mind. And they do mention after you meet Gao that his dad was some guy whose wife died and lost his mind and he lived somewhere up north. That never clicked with me.
Yeah, that's Gao's father.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, and then you meet Shadow.
Shadow, who is like an extremely stereotypical ninja, except with a dog that follows him around everywhere.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And he just plays the mysterious tough guy act.
And the dog's name is Interceptor, which I love too.
Yeah, I don't know if that showed up for me. I don't know that my version of the game named the dog.
No, yeah, Interceptor it's on there. It's just maybe they didn't say it, or I think it says it like, you know how sometimes the dog will block attacks for you?
I know that sometimes he will show up and attack people after they've attacked you.
I think it says Interceptor on top when it does that.
Okay. The dog is by far the most powerful creature that you've encountered in the game this far. Yeah, because if the dog shows up after you've been attacked and like the RNG hits right and he shows up and counterattacks, it does like 999 damage.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of damage it does.
It's pretty funny. Shadow's a cool character in that his special ability is that he throws things. Right. And I think he can throw almost anything you have in your inventory.
Yes, which is very cool.
You're supposed to buy the I can't remember how to say this.
Oh, the shurikens?
Yeah. You're supposed to buy like the ninja throwing star things specifically for him to do this because that's how he does the most damage. But I think he can just straight up start chucking all of your weapons that you have.
Yes, he can, which is very cool. It does a fair amount of damage, like more damage than the shurikens. But obviously, you're not buying those again. The shurikens are much more cost effective.
Yeah, exactly. But he's a cool character, and he accompanies you when you make.
And I love that little Wild West sounding theme song.
Yeah. He's very much the mysterious tough guy character.
Yeah, and then like when you meet him like in South Figaro, and it plays like in the bar, it's like, man, don't talk to him. I heard he slit his mama's throat for a nickel. Like, what is this? It's so good. So you travel through that whole business, and I believe that you go and you make your way to the camp outside of Doma.
Right. Yeah, you cross a bridge, or you get to a bridge, and then I think that's where the Imperial camp is because the Empire is getting ready to assault Doma Castle.
Right, and this is where we really get a picture of kind of Kefka, how evil he is, but also how he's not really acting under the umbrella completely of the Empire.
Right. Yeah, because he mentions that he wants to end this by just poisoning the castle, and all the soldiers around him are hesitant, and they indicate that General Leo wouldn't approve of what he's doing. And
General Leo even says, hey, don't do anything rash. This is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to handle this. And as soon as General Leo is called away, which he's not really called away, Kefka sets that up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he mentions that in that portion there. And so General Leo is called away, and Kefka begins the process of poisoning the river that feeds into Doma Castle.
He does, and that's where we meet Cyan, who is
like a knight.
Yeah, a knight. They might have used a different word, but he's basically a knight for the Kingdom of Doma, working with the king. Yeah. You meet him on top of the castle. Retainer, that's right. Okay. But anyways, you meet him, and people guarding the castle all start falling dead, and he starts to panic. He realizes that he runs in to protect the king, realizes the king is dead, and then they take it a step further, and you realize his family's there in the castle, and he finds them dead as well.
And it's just, again, they're introducing like the level of evil to which Kefka is willing to stoop. And seemingly of his own agenda.
I should mention this scene, he ran out to fight the commander of the of the Empire. That wasn't General Leo,
of that
though.
Particular army.
That was some random dude. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Cyan.
Yeah.
He has a sword tech ability, which we talked about earlier, where you can wait on a timer to get a more powerful version of what he's going to do. At the beginning, you mostly use level 1, like Tony said. But,
incredibly strong.
He's a strong
and
character.
a cool character who's like, he uses the word sir and thou, kind of, an archetype knight type character.
Yeah, very formal. To the extent that like a lot of the characters who aren't are very will indicate that they're annoyed by how formal he is, which is always pretty funny. But yeah, he finds out his family's dead. He runs out just to kill as many people as he can when he flies into a rage about that, and that's where
and the Magitech armor, and they're kind of
the
like
Shadow meet up
crashing through the
they steal some Magitech armor and they have to make their escape.
And so again, we kind of interact a little bit more with Kefka. He escapes after poisoning Doma, and then you need to escape as well. And so that's when we go to the Phantom Train thing, which is such a cool thing.
Yeah, you fight your way through a forest, like a haunted forest,
so tough.
Which is pretty tough. I had this section of the game was really tough because you don't, from this point on until you get to the other side of the Phantom Train, I don't think you have the opportunity to buy
you can buy stuff on the train.
I can't.
Did you miss that?
Well, wow, I totally missed that. The game was smarter than I was. But yeah, I didn't think that you could buy anything. So my assumption was that if you showed up there without the right amount of curatives, you might be screwed, because it's a tough fight from the beginning all the way to the end. Depending on what kind of enemies you come across. Like the three bomb, they're like red bomb ghosts. I don't know what you call them, but like they're going to take an enormous chunk of damage out if you're trying to fight them.
Yeah, it's crazy town.
Yeah.
It's crazy town. But there was a very cool thing. Again, just a very neat mechanic. And then at the end of that mechanic, you're fighting the actual train, which you can suplex.
Yeah, that was wacky. You find out you find out you're on their kind of version of the River Styx, I guess. It's this train that takes the dead from the world of the living across to the world of the dead. Not really sure why you managed to make your way there, but that's where you are, and you have to get off. So you fight your way to the engine, and when you try and stop the train itself wants to fight you. So you wind up in this turn-based battle where you're running in front of the train and also fighting it, which was pretty funny. This part of the game I didn't know about because it's kind of a meme. I know that you can suplex the train, and I made sure to do it while I had the opportunity, and it was very funny. But
I got just as long as you enter with enough like health or whatever. And then you have the moment where Cyan sees his wife and child getting on the train, which was very deep and moving.
Yeah, you finish the fight, and the train lets you off. You don't destroy the train; the train lets you off. And then when you leave at that stop, all the people who died at Doma are getting on board, and Cyan sees his wife and child and tries to run after the train. And the ending scene there is just him sitting there silently, and you're playing as Sabin, and you have to go up and talk to him, and they just kind of have like a
really well done, a lot of character depth and building. And then after the forest, you go to this like waterfall thing where you jumped out. Well,
I should mention I did encounter what's his name? Hold on.
Oh yeah. So did I.
Siegfried
like terrible
on the train, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah. He's a guy who pops out and tells you that you can't have a treasure that you found because it's his, and he's going to fight you. And he shows up, and he's got like this really intimidating sprite, and they start up the boss music when you encounter him. So you assume this is going to be real, and then you hit him like once, and he completely backs down, but then takes the treasure and runs off.
I'm assuming, and then he takes.
I assume you'll probably see him again. I don't know for sure.
What a jerk that guy. You go to the falls, the Barren Falls and the Veldt. So you jump down this waterfall, and you end up on the Veldt, which is where you meet the character Gao. Yeah,
he's you once again, as Sabin seems want to do, you wash up unconscious on the shore. And now this like little kid who seems like he's completely wild finds you and pokes at you, and then runs off once you wake up. And you wander out into the wilds, and as you fight animals, he'll show up and indicate that he's hungry. And you can't end the fight until you hit him, which seemed really weird to me. I guess you could run away, but when he shows up and says he's hungry, I thought that there would be something that I had in my inventory right then that I could give to him. So I threw like a green cherry to him, and Yeah, and nothing happens. What you have to do is get to the town and buy the dried meat. I think it was.
I think Mobiles is the town or whatever.
Right.
And that whole thing, that his character's cool in terms of like he's like learning enemy attacks, and when you're on the veldt, you can send him out, and then you beat those enemies, and eventually after a couple of fights, he comes back and he's learned the techniques of the enemy that you sent him out on, which is very, very cool.
I definitely spent some time on the veldt training him up, which was really cool. Like he learns if for example, one of the soldier enemies you fight can cast fire. If he learns that attack, you can select the name of the enemy that he fought. And I don't know if it's that he gets one attack from each enemy or if that he randomly selects an attack that the enemy that he learned from can do. I haven't played it. Okay. Yeah. But it'll basically let him cast magic, which he wouldn't.
And then he tells you about his treasure, his shiny treasure. So you have to go to this mountain. And it turns out his shiny treasure is a diving helmet.
Right. And okay.
Right. And there's 3 of you.
There's one helmet. What the hell is happening? The plan is based on like something you heard. You talked to a guy in the town that you just came back from. What was it called again? Mobile, something like that. I can't remember. You talk to a guy and he asks if you've heard about the currents, and then you get like a visual of the current taking you from where you are on the world map off to some other place, which isn't even Narshe. That's what I don't get. Like, how are you supposed to know that there was a boat to Narshe out there?
Man, I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like roaming around that town forever going, what the hell am I supposed to do? But the thing that pissed me off the most about that town, okay, this is what it is there are like 75 boxes and barrels in that town, and not one of those has an item in it.
Oh yeah, on the boat especially, I was sure I was going to find some good stuff. So if you're not familiar in Final Fantasy VI, a lot of times if you walk up to a pot or a barrel or a box or something and press A, you'll find an item in there. Sometimes like a really good item, but not in that town, not Nakia or whatever it was called. Don't waste your time. Although I'm assuming that you've played the game up until this point. If you're listening along, maybe
do not go through every box and pot and click on them because it's not worth it. I was so mad about that. And then finally, you take the boat back to Narshe or South Figaro, and then once you get to South Figaro, then it assumes that you go to Narshe, and then that is where we have ended this portion of our playthrough.
Something I just remembered: when you leave Figaro, you leave with Terra and Edgar and Locke, and you wind up in this hut, and you find out that Sabin or somebody might have been there. And you go to that hut.
Yeah. And there's like that old man that's like out there, like when you leave the thing.
Yeah. There's an old man just hanging out there, and you find like evidence that Sabin was there, and the evidence is you find his favorite tea, something, and his favorite plates.
Yes.
Are you following? Is it the same thing in the Super Nintendo translation? Okay. Which I guess implies that Sabin, as he travels around, has like a sack full of his best china that he just carries with him, and then if he shacks up somewhere, he just leaves it in their hutch. I don't know. That's the weirdest thing.
I didn't even think about it that way. No, you don't.
Oh man, and you never go back and get his plates when you meet him.
His favorite china is gone forever.
In this guy's house. I guess maybe at the end of the game. I don't know. I've never played it before.
Yeah.
At the end, everybody links up. They're all in Narshe, and we'll leave this for next time. There's like a really cool scene coming up. Yeah. They're really setting the stage for some early game high stakes stuff, which really I'm very excited about. But overall, Tony, a very good game, very fun to play. As long as you are kind of familiar with RPGs and are willing to stock up on items, not too hard. Fun to play. Very dense with the narrative, which I appreciate. I've only played like 7 hours, and I feel like I'm summarizing an entire game. So I'm very curious to see how that progresses.
But so hopefully we'll get some more listeners as we go along.
We're probably in like the low dozens of thousands now.
Dozens of thousands, yeah. Probably.
Right.
I think for the next, we haven't really talked about this will all be edited about where we're stopping next, but I think uh, in the game you visit the Esper world, and I think right after that would be a good place to stop.
I haven't been there.
I think that'd be the best place. I think seems like a good. So it's like basically in thirds. So the game is in two halves. The game's in two halves, and so we're splitting each half into thirds basically.
Solid,
so if you guys have any things that you're experiencing, and maybe things that we missed that you think we should talk about, or maybe things we got wrong, or maybe you just are an old-fashioned heckler and you want to send in some heckling emails or whatnot, you can email us at roleplayinggamescast@gmail.com
or at our Twitter account.
Roleplaying Gamescast on Twitter, you'll find us. And then we also have the Roleplaying Gamescast Facebook page, which you can like and follow, which we are also posting on.
That's right. And on Twitter we are at cast_roll.
So this has been quite the episode. This is Joe and Tony signing out.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I played the out of Destiny. Oh, whoops. I played the stuff out of Destiny.
Wow.